We can't heal if we can't face and be honest about what's hurting us, especially if what's hurting us is us. I'm always appreciative of the grace that you extend when an episode goes up hours or days or weeks later than it's supposed to. I know y'all know I'm doing so much and y'all don't really know the half, and that's okay. You don't need to. Your grace is sufficient. The goal, though, is for this podcast to roll out on time, same time, every week, like any network production. So I have to do what I have to do on my end to uphold the required professionalism. And I'm actively working on that. Service announcement. Passionate. Let me tell you something. So what is this Passion PSA podcast? Who am I? Well, they call me Passion, short for passion no last necessary. Why is there no last name necessary? Because the first name says it all. I am passion and all that embodies. What do I do here? I give you the life coaching that you know you need, but don't enroll yourself in. When did I start? Actually, 2017. I'd leave a PSA on my Instagram regarding something I'd observed, and now we've evolved to this. Why do I do it? Why not? If even one person is able to take away one thing that changes their life, someone else's life, or changes the world for the better, then I've done what I was charged to do. So come on in, sit and listen for a while. There's something here for everyone at the Passion PSA podcast. Greetings and salutations, my beloved passionates, newcomers, visitors, and guests. Grateful to spend this time with you for another episode of the Passion PSA podcast, where I, passion no last necessary, your get you right guru, issue a weekly or public service announcement about whatever I have observed or was on my mind. This is a for your consideration zone where the objective is to offer you a perspective you may not have previously considered to A, expand your thinking, and B, aid you in becoming a better version of yourself, for yourself, and for others. This is a safe space, but not necessarily a delicate one. I'll never rob you of your right to feel what you feel, same way I won't sugarcoat the truth to make it more palatable. The goal is to get you to higher, more expanded thinking so that you can operate as your highest and best self. If you are new here, affirmations are generally our first order of business so that we can intentionally raise the vibration and start on one accord. Let's get on the same frequency. If you're ready, go ahead and take a deep breath. You are always welcome to repeat after me or to take this time to state your own affirmations. I allow myself grace. I set healthy boundaries. I hold myself accountable. I give myself space to grow. Each day, I live and learn. I apply what I've learned. I teach it to someone else and repeat the action. There are lessons in the errors. I am correctable. I am coachable. I am well. It is well. All is well. Well is all. Ashe, ashe, ashe. So again, if you are new to this space, at least once a season, I do an episode that is a very self-reflective, introspective review and reveal of what I have going on in my head and my heart. Today's that episode. So last year I got involved in a mentorship, and if you want to know what that experience was like, you can definitely click on this playlist link right here. Navigating, and I really should say juggling, all of the jobs of What One Woman Does Productions and being involved in this mentorship was really too much, if I'm being honest. My attention is already pulled in multiple directions, wearing all of the hats for this podcast and this business. My intentions were 100% in the right place, but I really didn't have the time to dedicate to one more thing that required that kind of commitment. So then comes the review of, if I had done this, but since I didn't, going forward, I am going to do this so I don't run into this situation again. And it sounds good, and it's wise, and it's doable. And that's largely in theory. Every season, I want the whole season written before the season starts. No season has the whole season been written before the season started. Maybe a few episodes, but definitely not the whole season. Every week, I want the episode completed and the premiere scheduled well before the actual premiere so we can all come together and watch interactively. Very few weeks, and that's more like 1, 2, maybe 3 weeks of the season, is that a reality. Every day, I wake up with the intentions to dedicate time to getting these things done before work. Yeah. My heart be in the right place. my list even be written and at my fingertips so I can check things off. My execution is strong start, and then any little thing can derail the plan. 6 hours sounds like a long time. But when you start with 6 hours and 10 minutes goes here and 15 minutes goes there and 30 minutes goes there, 6 hours dwindles quickly. And now it's a race against time to accomplish in 1 to 2 hours what you couldn't accomplish in 6. And I've been going back and forth with myself because much like what was happening during the mentorship, I have all these things that require my attention, and all these things require time. So then there's the game of multitasking. Let me do this while I do that, so I'm knocking out multiple things at once. And that too sounds simple enough in theory, but the applied practice often proves not so feasible. So again, there's the moment of review where I assess how I ended up at this place and see all the could'ves and should'ves, because this thing, this template, this plan of action does work. It's probably that I just didn't work the plan correctly. So I try again. And maybe I make better headway the next time. Maybe the circumstances are just slightly different. Maybe I put the adequate effort in. Maybe I didn't really do anything different. Maybe the concentration required was easier to give because of my mood or my interest. Maybe there were fewer distractions or interruptions. I don't know. What I can say definitively is that when the one thing is done, it's not really a place for downtime because the other things that we're holding in the interim, they're still holding. They still need the time and attention. And often, more important than the time and attention is the drive. Very few people know I love to clean. When you have 1,000 things to do, it's easy for the cleaning and household maintenance to get away from you. The further the maintenance gets away from you, the less inclined you are to do it. Once it's too far gone, not only do you not want to do it, most of the time, you don't know where to start. What's more, even a decision to work this one room can prove disastrous because if you have things in this one room from every other room, walking out of this one room to put those things in the room where they belong is almost a trap. You go in there, but in order for you to put those things from the other room where they belong, so you're not contributing to or creating mess in this room, you start doing things in here. Now the room you were supposed to be focused on has been temporarily abandoned. You're aware that you need to get back to the original space, but the work in this room is calling you. And your mind is saying, well, let me just do at least this, and then I'll go back there. And on goes the cycle of incompletion. A little getting done everywhere, but nothing actually being seen through to completion. This is all happening without factoring in people. The ones calling because their lives are in shambles. The ones calling because they want to have tea time. The ones calling because they're bored and want to use you as a distraction. The ones who need a tutorial on how to do X, Y, and Z. And while some calls are doable while you're doing your tasks, some calls are ultimately distractions from your tasks. And some people who are afflicted in the same way as you will laugh with you at the struggle to get these things done, but they won't leave you in peace to see it through. Some will tell you, oh, it's easy to knock it out because it's easy for them, which makes you want to knock their head off their shoulders. Sometimes it's not even the call that's to your detriment. It's the seemingly harmless text with the link, luring you into the socials. You click the one link that opens up to a 90-second reel. And 57 minutes later, you're grateful for this new text message that came and rescued you from the Instaverse, saved you from TikToking, or extricated you from the YouTube rabbit hole. And while this text did indeed save you from the social wonderland, this new message could be an invitation to more not getting it done. Someone is listening to this right now and is exhausted by all this distraction. Someone else is annoyed because just do the work and then you can talk to whomever and scroll the socials. Like what? And for the rest of y'all, hands up if you feel seen. So juggling, navigating, managing all the things, I'm aware of what gets done and in what time frame, which is usually in the 11th hour, just sliding through the door, under pressure and hyper stressed. But I'm also aware of all that didn't get done, all that still needs to be done, and all that really can't afford to wait. And since none of it can actually afford to wait, I'm back in the first room with the plan to execute, doing a lot, but not actually getting much done. So I have some people that I confide in, and I tell them how unaccomplished I feel. And their eyebrows about take leave of their faces and stop somewhere around their crowns trying to figure out how on earth, for all that I do, for all that I've done, could I possibly fix my lips to say I don't feel like I've done enough? So one time I was going out of town and my confidant was like, why didn't you remind me you were going out of town? And my reply was simple but honest. I said, girl, I've been distracted and not operating at my highest potential, shaking my head. So confidant said, I can tell a lot was expected of you as a young woman. You're so hard on yourself sometimes. Ain't nan one of us always focused and on go. It happens though. I feel you. So I replied that what they were saying was true, but I acknowledged that too much of my attention was being otherwise directed. That was one of several reasons that particular episode didn't go up. And I told them I would send a voice note later. I'm going to share what we discussed in these voice notes because this is a transparency episode. Were some details extracted and omitted? Yes. This isn't an expose. Also, there were some edits to make reading it to you more fluid, but I left the bulk of the messages so that you can get a healthy, hearty morsel and something for you to really chew on. So I said, 100% a lot was expected of me and still is. And we've spoken about it many times before. I've more or less unintentionally picked up the torch, but it's also a fact of when you know that you're capable of more. You're hyper aware when you're not operating at your highest potential. And that's what I'm navigating. This year, a lot of attention and energy and time has been invested in XYZ. So I've been really evaluating myself over the course of the last few days. I've invested so much time in this other space and I haven't been doing what I need to do. So like the episode should have been completed. Piano should have been practiced and it just hasn't been. And while I know that you and other confidants always encourage me to extend myself grace, I'm still at that place of like, yeah, I could extend myself grace, but, and maybe this is because I'm used to people being hard on me, especially growing up. I feel like a lot of people extend themselves grace that they don't need to extend themselves. Like there's work to be done and the work could be getting done and you're giving yourself a pass because you showbidded. You know there's a time for downtime, but when you see yourself showbidding too often, what? Like you can't cry about what position you're not in or cry about the position you are in when you're not doing enough to correct the position. Like you could be changing your position. You could really be making a whole lifestyle change for yourself, disciplining yourself just a little bit, and you're not. You're giving yourself all this grace to be where you are, but then complain to yourself because this is what you set yourself up for. And that's how I feel. I feel like I could have and do and be so much more. And I'm not because I'm giving myself too much leeway to not be successful. And I'm not okay with that. So that's what I'm navigating. Sidebars and redirects are often way longer than 10 minutes and 20, 30 minutes can make a difference when it's time to sit down and write or when it's time to sit down and shoot. For a 20-minute episode, I'm probably recording for well over 20 minutes and the same thing for my editing time. So I'm waking up at 9 a.m. and from 9 to 10, I'm taking the time to do my affirmations and listening to something positive to edify myself before I start my day. Cool. From 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., there's still so much that could be getting done, and I just don't feel like enough is getting accomplished. So being aware of that, I'm disappointed in that underproduction. So that's where I am, beloved, just checking myself. I'm right where I want to be in terms of like visualizing. I can see the vision clearly. It is palpable and tangible, and I feel like I can actualize it. So it's like I'm talking to myself saying, you're right there, sis, just a little bit more effort. You just got to push a little bit more. Same time, I judge myself because I called out because I needed the time to get some things done, including complete an episode. And what did I do with the time? The episode didn't go up. Granted, the laundry got done, my hair got washed, but like there was still way more things to be done and I just need to do them. And I'm not really trying to be too hard on myself but I just can't give myself the grace that other people give themselves because I see them giving themselves grace and complaining about where they are. It's either one or the other. You're going to give yourself that pep talk and push yourself so you can get out of the situation. Or you're going to keep giving yourself grace and remain in the situation. Like, which one you trying to do? So my sis responded to me saying, I hear everything you're saying. I still feel like you could be a little bit easier or have a certain level of grace with yourself. And I agree with what you're saying. Some people exchange grace for being lazy or not doing the things that they need to be doing in order to get out of the situations that they're complaining about. I completely agree with you. At times, I found myself to be one of those people. So I totally know, did I say peoples? One of those people. So I totally know what you mean. I don't see that in you. And I know I don't see everything that you do or don't do, but you got like 12 seasons and how many episodes of any season, and you've never starved the passionates. You always putting work out. You show up to everybody's event. You do your scheduled work shift. And now you're at that time in your life where you are entertaining something that could very much be a part of your future. And that seems like, oh, I'm not being productive, or I'm here having a good time doing this and doing that. And sometimes cultivating and nurturing different aspects of our lives is necessary to our future, but we don't see it because we think everything gotta look like work, 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 progress, progress, progress. And sometimes it looks like enjoying yourself and relaxing and taking things a little bit easier and getting to know people, which also helps you know yourself a lot more or a lot better than you think. It also gives you material and a fresh perspective and new and different energy to engage with your listeners and your passionates. Progress is not linear, and it doesn't always look like work and tire yourself out and work to the very last minute until you just can't work anymore. It doesn't always look like that. Sometimes it looks like it's not work. Sometimes it looks like leisure. The New Age teachers always say, enjoy yourself, have a good time. Life is supposed to be fun. Life is supposed to be play. And then we feel bad when we're having a good time. You shouldn't feel bad or punish yourself because you're enjoying, cultivating, and nurturing something that could very well be a part of your future and is definitely a part of your now. Sometimes we feel like, oh man, I was so focused, but I let this take me off track. I let that take my eyes off the ball and my foot off the gas. And what we're counting as a distraction might have been a necessary detour because there are other things and other perspectives you need. As a result of that time spent, people may start looking at the podcast like there's something different about her. Sometimes these breaks and pauses offer us something that we don't realize we need or have been needing. So I think all of it is necessary. It looks like because you're not foot on the gas, constantly working, that it's not working for you and it's not a part of your success journey. But I don't think that's true. And I still think that you've got to have a certain level of grace with yourself. I think the trips that you're taking, the family get-togethers, and any time otherwise spent, all of these incidences, occurrences, and occasions, these relationships are pouring more into you so that you can pour more into the people. You've allowed yourself to be used as a vessel for the people. So at times, you're going to have to step away and be poured into so that you have something to give. So I still think you should have a certain level of grace with yourself. And I know what you mean when we're not operating as our higher self, but we're never going to be our highest self until it's over. There's always going to be more work to do. There's always going to be something to catch up on. There's always going to be a bill or something that needs our attention. Bills come every month. Work is continuous. We never reach that plateau where it's like, I've done it. So there's always going to be work to do. Y'all clap for my confidant, okay? Because a thing was, confidant gave me some good, gentle parenting, okay? I acknowledge it. I agree with it. I receive it with and in love. And in all of that, I still have to wonder how much grace is enough and how much grace is too much. Everybody on the outside that has never done the thing that you're doing on the level you're doing it, everybody spectating either as a nosy passerby or as an actual fan. Everybody knows how much of a reprieve you need, but most of them don't know that in order to get from there to where, these these reprieves they're talking about don't fit. If I'm going to take time to rest, that's the time you wanted me to go out with you. If I'm not going to play Captain Save 'em for those over there, that also means I don't have time to be your sounding board. And for all the opportunity costs, while things are getting done, my spirit is in a space of unrest because I wasn't available to people who needed me. Again, someone is going to say, you have to pour from the overflow. I'm one of those people, right? Literally, that's the gentle lecture me and Confidant have been giving each other back and forth for the last few days. And while it's absolutely true, for people like me, the balance is often very challenging to find. While we're trying to fill our cups, we're encountering others whose cups have less than ours, so we feel like we can spare some. While we're trying to fill our own cups, we're filling other people's. So we end up looking for a source to fill us while effortlessly keeping everyone else good. While we're trying to be satisfied and at peace, doing just this little bit right here, even though it's a lot, we feel like there's more we can do. And since we see a corner of availability, we run and seize the opportunity to do yet another thing, which further takes us away from the things we already have pending. And it's so easy to deviate when you're talented, so the ability to do these things are there. You just need time to flesh them out. But when time is the one commodity that's in the highest demand in your life, of all the things that excite and interest you, what do you choose? We'll just do this for now and then move on to something else. This ain't no RC car. This isn't a hobby. And a lot of the time that you need to rest, you need to relax, you need to take a break, you need to chill, that advice isn't conducive to meeting your goals. So it feels like the people who tell you they support you don't actually support your ultimate goals. It very much sounds like it's okay if you don't do your little hobby right now. And that metastasizes depending on who it's coming from. No, not everyone telling you to take it easy is trying to diminish what you're doing. But there are those who think their intentions aren't discernible, who really want you to take a break from what you're doing because they want the time, energy, and effort you're giving to your dreams. This sounds cold, but while it is an aspiration and desire to be a great friend, it is not on my vision board to be struggling and commiserating with anybody and settling for being able to do something. My dreams, my goals, my aspirations, they may seem lofty to the next, but as long as they seem possible for me, that's what I'm striving for. So figuring out how to get it done is its own job. And the not helpful advice that too many people show up with, we get that your intentions are really good, but it ends there. I think more people need to be honest with themselves that the grace they're giving themselves, while necessary, does have a shelf life. And there is a point where grace needs to end and tough love needs to begin. For those of us who had extremely strict, iron-fisted parents, a lot of us are still licking our wounds from their harshness. And we're making up for all the times when we felt like they could have been more lenient or they could have been more compassionate. It's time to keep it a stack with yourself. You're overcompensating. They did the most. They definitely could have done less. And now you're doing the least and definitely could be doing more. Do I think you need to do it like me? Absolutely not. This loop of constant distress because of what's not done, what needs to be done, and what gets done when ain't it. But I think more people need to be honest about the more they could be doing, and others need to be honest about what they need to offload. Passion is for all the definitions there are in all the different reference books, for all the synonyms there are for grace, excuse, and excuses don't make the list. When I do a double, then a turnaround, and if you don't know what that means, it means I work back-to-back shifts, go home for a shift, and turn around and come right back 8 hours later. When I work that schedule, I give myself grace after the third shift to sleep until my body is rested and ready to rise. Grace is knowing the rest is needed. To me, grace is not getting the rest and then getting up and watching other people be successful on the socials. The grace was to sleep a little later and restore myself. Spending time idly when so many things need to be completed does not equate to grace to me. And I've had friends argue me down. Passion, you work a lot. So what if you spend an hour on a gram and you caught up on a couple shows? And I hear them and I hear you, Passionates.
Y'all can't find a comment section to save your lives. But y'all can find a messaging app that texts me what you could have written in the comments, which ultimately helps shake up the algorithm, but y'all don't hear me. Point is, I'm always appreciative of the grace that you extend when an episode goes up hours or days or weeks later than it's supposed to. I know y'all know I'm doing so much, and y'all don't really know the half, and that's okay. You don't need to. Your grace is sufficient. The goal, though, is for this podcast to roll out on time, same time, every week, like any network production. So I have to do what I have to do on my end to uphold the required professionalism. And I'm actively working on that. So that's that, Passionates. That was this season's Look Into My Life. That was a more extended, revealing explanation of how and why things have been inconsistent this season. I'm not proud at all. Actually, there's plentiful shame, but we can't heal if we can't face and be honest about what's hurting us, especially if what's hurting us is us. Comments are welcome. Feedback is appreciated. Donations are needed and valued. Links are in the description box for donations. Listener letters can be sent to greetings@whatonewomandoes.com. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe now. Give this episode a thumbs up and share it with your friends. You get you right, Guru. It's signing off. Y'all go forth. Be great. Be filled with bliss. Be armed and empowered with knowledge. Give yourself grace, not a past to be trash. In all things, be passionate. See you later.